when we picture economically thriving nations, images of Germany, Switzerland, Norway, and Sweden come to mind, all countries with exceptionally high GDP per capita. In stark contrast, we see underdeveloped nations in sub-Saharan Africa, Central America, the Middle East, and pockets of Southeast Asia. Numerous factors contribute to the disparity between poverty-stricken and prosperous countries. We've delved into these factors extensively, examining economies from the depths of the Democratic Republic of the Congo to the pinnacles of Switzerland and Norway. Political stability, industrial development, and natural resource abundance are undoubtedly crucial variables, yet an unexplained pattern emerges. Curiously, cold countries appear to be consistently wealthier than their warmer counterparts. This correlation, while seemingly bizarre, is undeniable when examining a world map color-coded by GDP per capita. The poorest nations cluster in the world's hottest regions, while almost all developed countries lie outside the tropics, with just a few exceptions. This observation raises intriguing questions. Is there a genuine statistical correlation between cold climates and prosperity? Could this be a mere coincidence? And if there's a real connection, what factors might be driving it? Let's examine the facts and figures closely. There haven't been any definitive studies on this topic, and the only research paper we could find on it didn't look at the raw data. This is a crucial step because sometimes things seem true when presented, but the actual results don't match up. For instance, it might seem like the average American man has 2 arms. This theory would likely be supported by the casual observation that every American man someone can think of off the top of their head has 2 arms. But in reality, the average number of arms an American man has is 1.998 because 2.2 people in every 1,000 have lost an arm. In other words, most American men have an above-average number of arms. So, statistics can be surprising, and fortunately for this theory, the data is straightforward. We want to see how the average temperature of a country relates to its GDP per capita. A simple linear regression reveals some intriguing findings. As predicted, there is an inverse relationship between temperature and GDP per capita. For every additional degree Celsius in the average national temperature, the expected value of GDP per capita drops by $762 per year. This means that if country A is 10 degrees colder than country B, it is expected to have a GDP per capita $7,620 a year higher. In the case of temperature and GDP per capita, we found an R-squared value of 0.09. This means that temperature explains 9% of the variation in GDP per capita. While this may not seem like a lot, it is actually quite significant. The other 91% of the variation in GDP per capita is likely due to other factors such as credit rating, natural resource wealth, infrastructure, government stability, and so on. So, while temperature is not the only factor that affects a country's prosperity, it is still a relatively important one. And the fact that we can explain even a small percentage of the variation in GDP per capita using temperature is a testament to the power of statistical analysis. Some countries in this dataset, like Bahrain, Qatar, the UAE, and Singapore, are very hot and very rich. This is because natural resource wealth has helped them overcome the challenges of hot weather. Singapore is an exception to this rule. North Korea is another interesting case. It is very cold and very poor, which shows that political instability can have a greater impact on a country's economy than its climate. It is important to remember that correlation does not always mean causation. For example, there is a strong correlation between ice cream sales and drownings. However, ice cream does not cause drownings, and drownings do not increase ice cream sales. Both events are simply more likely to happen in the summer. This is called a spurious relationship. Is the relationship between temperature and economic prosperity also spurious? No, it is not. If it were, there would need to be a third variable that is linked to both temperature and economic prosperity. However, there is no such variable, so we can conclude that the relationship between temperature and economic prosperity is genuine. Scientists have been trying to figure out why countries with colder climates tend to be richer than those with warmer climates. One popular theory is called economic selection. Imagine living in a country like Norway, where winters are long and harsh. To survive, people need to plan ahead and stockpile food, build strong shelters, and gather fuel for warmth. This forced resourcefulness has given these economies an advantage over those in warmer climates, where food is available year-round and basic shelters are sufficient. Over time, this forced industriousness has led to societies that place a high value on capital goods, such as tools, machinery, and infrastructure. These societies are more likely to invest in these goods, which can lead to increased productivity and economic growth. However, there is a critique of this theory. Many ancient civilizations, such as Egypt, Mesopotamia, the Mayans, and the Persians, thrived in warm regions. This suggests that cold climates are not the only factor that contributes to economic prosperity. To resolve this contradiction, we need to consider how global industries have changed. In the past, agriculture was the main driver of economic growth. Civilizations in warm regions were able to thrive because they could produce abundant food. However, as the Industrial Revolution took hold, manufacturing became the new driver of growth. Countries with colder climates were better positioned to take advantage of the Industrial Revolution. They had the resources, such as coal and iron ore, to fuel industrialization. They also had the skilled labor that was needed to operate factories and machines. As a result of these factors, countries with colder climates have gradually become richer than those with warmer climates. However, it is important to note that this is a complex issue with many contributing factors. In the past, a nation's prosperity was based on its ability to grow food. More food meant more people could be fed, who could then work more land to grow even more food. There were no modern farming methods, so even the most powerful empires faced frequent famines. Warmer climates could support more crops, leading to greater wealth. Today, a country's wealth is no longer determined by its agricultural output. Instead, it is determined by industry and innovation. Societies that had to adapt and innovate for centuries to survive in harsh environments are now thriving and leading the world into the industrial age. Scientists believe that people living in colder climates tend to be more tolerant of each other because they spend more time indoors, which can make them more cooperative. Additionally, colder temperatures can make people less aggressive. In the past, aggression was helpful for conquering new territory. However, today, business deals and global negotiations are more important, and these are better handled by people who can stay calm. This means that countries in colder climates may have had an advantage in the past, but this advantage is not as important today. Any country can be innovative, regardless of the weather. Economic curiosities like the wealth and climate correlation are thought-provoking. While it may not provide direct guidance for policy formulation, it serves as a compelling case study that challenges economists to delve into the factors that contribute to successful economies. Cause and effect relationships are fundamental not only in economics, but also in the world around us. The ability to identify whether one event causes another, determine the extent of that influence, and explain the underlying mechanisms is an invaluable skill in today's professional world. Perhaps this skill can be refined during the winter months when we're indoors more often.